Hello everyone, thanks for joining this webinar. My name is Ganesh and I lead the support services team here at Manage Engine. So in today's webinar, we're going to take a look at privileged access management platforms and what role does it play when it comes to regulatory and compliance standards. So in today's agenda, we're going to start with the compliance imperative in Europe, especially the evolution of the compliance standards and how we have reached NIS2 and even DORA at this day and age, right? So we'll also talk about how privileged access management platforms play a foundational layer or act as a foundational layer for meeting regulatory and compliance requirements. We'll talk about how organizations typically deploy privileged access management platforms and are they doing compliance auditing in the right fashion. We're going to give you a 5-point checklist of key factors that you should be looking at when investing or deploying a privileged access management solution. And then we'll also have a quick introduction to Manage Engine's own privileged access management platform called PAM 360. And at the end, we'll have a quick Q&A session. If you have any questions, you can post the questions and we'll be happy to answer them for you. So to begin with, compliance imperative. So if you guys remember 2010s, early 2012-13, we saw a huge boom in digitalization of critical services, like especially energy, transportation, even banking and finance sectors were hugely becoming interconnected IT systems. So EU has always been at the forefront when it comes to cybersecurity and cybersecurity frameworks. So in 2016, European Union came up with the NIS1 directive, right, to make sure that this is not a fragmented approach and the cybersecurity is looked at from top-to-bottom approach. And then in 2017 to 2021, during the global pandemic time, we saw a huge increase in high-profile attacks, specifically targeting these critical sectors. And in most cases, these cyber attacks occurred due to a privilege abuse. And so it was pretty straightforward that we had to safeguard the privileged identities and bring in more controls when it comes to privileged access. So in 2022, EU came up with the NIS2 directive that had addressed some of the gaps that were there in NIS2-1 directive. And in 2023, we saw DORA. These standards ensured that organizations took a proactive access control approach rather than being reactive to incidents that were happening in their organizations. So when you look at privileged access management platforms, they play a key role in being compliant with these regulatory standards. So if you look at the screen here, you can see NIS2 and you can see the specific articles and checklist items where a PAM control is directly responsible for being compliant with that article's requirement. Same goes for DORA. A lot of these article items directly correlate to PAM controls and capabilities of privileged access management platforms. Same goes for other regulatory standards like ISO or IEC and even Cyber Essentials. So we have detailed documentation for each of these regulatory standards, and in fact our own solution has out-of-the-box compliance reports that covers all aspects of these regulatory standards. So it'll be quite easy for you to generate reports and submit it for these audits. But the point is privileged access management platforms play a key role in attaining these regulatory standards and having the cybersecurity posture essential to clear these regulatory audits. So that being said, if you are looking to invest in a PAM solution or if you're looking to deploy a PAM platform, are you doing it right? We're going to give you 5 key points that you should remember. And to demonstrate why these key 5 points are essential, I'm going to talk about an imaginary organization called Zilker. Let's say Zilker is a medium to large sized organization based out of Europe. And let's say they have more than 500 plus employees performing various roles within their organization. So, point number one is about comprehensive coverage. So, Zilker decided to deploy PAM controls because one of their audit findings showed lack of compliance and gaps in a lot of areas. So their primary focus was just to close those gaps. So they went ahead and deployed a PAM purely to tick off all of the compliance and regulatory requirements. And because it was the first time they were deploying a PAM, they didn't take the time to actually design the solution or properly architecture it so that it fits right into their existing ecosystem. So they took a high risk management control in place, which means they deployed the solution focusing only on their critical servers, databases, and some of the highly privileged areas. But in reality, they had more privileged access in their environment than what their PAM deployment was tackling. So if you look at any organization, you will have privileged users, right? So Zilker had different kinds of users, starting from C-suite to directors, all the way to interns, and everything in between, like your system administrators, IT administrator, cloud architects, database administrators. So they had quite a lot of variety of privileged users. And then they also had quite a lot of variety of privileged identities. Everything from local accounts, built-in system accounts to service accounts. And these days, we even see AI agentic accounts and API tokens having high privileges, right? So Zilker had these users leveraging these identities and then performing privilege activities, right? So users are one aspect, and the identities they use is another aspect, and then finally what they actually do is the privilege activity. So anything from making minor changes to Active Directory or DNS to deploying and patching the systems. Even more critical is when some of the users manage customer data and customer accounts, right? So this organization had all of these activities happening in their infrastructure, but their PAM solution wasn't really tracking, monitoring, and controlling all of these activities. So if you are looking to invest in a PAM solution or deploy a PAM platform, the question you should ask is, are you designing the PAM to proactively protect your entire infrastructure? You shouldn't be looking at a PAM platform just as a need for regulatory compliance. It goes the other way. If you have a robust PAM platform deployed, it should naturally help your organization meet these regulatory standards and not the other way around. So that's point number one. Point number two is about vendor and solution consolidation. So Zilker, because they decided to deploy a PAM solution to close the gaps found in the recent audits, they didn't really take stock of their existing solutions in their environment. So they just deployed PAM first time, and after a few months they had need for a secret vault. And then after a few months they had need to tackle certificates and SSH keys and all of it. And earlier they were only dealing with passwords, and with the rise of certificate administration and usage, they had a need for dealing certificate life cycles as well. So as the requirements kept getting more and more, they simply went ahead and started procuring different PAM solutions for these different requirements. In other words, there were different divisions or departments within this organization that was procuring another PAM solution from another vendor to close the requirements which their existing PAM platform could already do. So if you look at this diagram, they started with session management because they wanted users to gain privileged access through privileged session controls, and they had just-in-time elevation capabilities enabled, and they also had an enterprise credential vault in place. But when there was a need for end user to store their own passwords, or when they wanted to expand and control APIs, authentication tokens, and all forms of secrets, they went ahead and deployed another PAM. And when they started moving to cloud and adopting cloud infrastructure, they were in need of handling cloud entitlements. So they went ahead and bought another PAM solution purely to deal with CIEM. In fact, it was just a cloud infrastructure management solution. It's not even a PAM, but they were just having it as a separate siloed system. And same goes for certificate lifecycle as well. They went ahead and bought a solution that could just do certificate management and nothing else. So if you are looking to deploy a PAM platform, the question you should ask is, are you using multiple vendors for different PAM controls or capabilities or modules or however you want to call it? The point is, you should already look at your existing systems to see if you can replace those systems with a new PAM platform. Like if you already have a password vault for your users, it makes sense to migrate that into your new PAM platform rather than having two vaulting systems in place. It makes it very difficult for enterprises to manage multiple solutions, especially from multiple vendors. So that is point number 2. Point number 3 is about adoption. So it's one thing to invest and procure a PAM solution, but it's a totally different thing about actually leveraging it. So Zilker deploying PAM and having few of the capabilities of PAM in separate silos by procuring solutions from different vendors, they basically had no centralized policy. So when they were enabling controls like just-in-time elevation or secret management capabilities, it was purely for specific areas and it was purely for risk mitigation. So the users who actually gain privilege access on a day-to-day basis weren't exactly using PAM for all privilege access. So in other words, there are some areas of their infrastructure where users were circumventing PAM, or at least there was a way for the users to circumvent PAM and directly gain privilege access, which defeats the purpose of having a PAM platform, if you ask me. So if you look at this diagram here, it's from Gartner, and they've measured the scores from the rate of 1 to 5. When you have no PAM, the risk is going to be high. When you are doing some level of PAM controls manually, the risk is still going to be 4. If you have invested in PAM but you're using it lightly, like you're using it for ad hoc requirements but haven't fully adopted it end to end, you are still with a risk score of 3. Only when you deploy a full PAM solution end to end, covering your entire IT infrastructure, all the users, identities, and privilege activities, will your risk score go all the way to 1. And same goes for various areas of PAM like control and coverage, security, compliance, and then enablement. So the point to remember is that you have to ask, do all privilege activities go through my PAM platform, or are there any gaps where, let's say, network team or database team or any particular team is able to circumvent PAM controls or bypass PAM controls? So that would be the question you should ask. And point 4 is about integration with your existing ecosystem. So Zilker had numerous IT management solutions. They were using different solutions for monitoring, Active Directory management, full stack observability. They also had custom workflows where some systems were automatically performing various tasks without any manual intervention. So the problem is when they invested in a PAM solution, they deployed it as a standalone siloed platform that didn't really interact or engage with any of their existing ecosystem. So to name a few, pretty much every organization will have an IT service management solution for incident management, change management, ticketing system, and all of it. And then most organizations would have an IGA solution that, at least to a some degree, helps with the creating users, provisioning users, and performing basic authentications and MFA. And most organizations will have a SIM solution that gathers logs across various enterprise IT infrastructure, and SIM solutions are generally the data lake where all of the data from all of your endpoints converge. So you could do really powerful activities using a SIM solution. And Zilker was also running a lot of CI/CD pipelines using DevOps platforms like Ansible or Chef or Puppet. They had RPA tools like Automation Anywhere to do seamless workflow automation. They had BI solutions. They even had privileged task routines automated. So the point is, when they deployed PAM, they weren't leveraging the full potential of PAM because they didn't extend their PAM platform to seamlessly integrate with their service management, SIM solutions, and container platforms and DevOps pipelines. So if you are deploying a PAM solution, the question you should ask is my PAM functioning cohesively with my existing IT management stack? You could be having different solutions from different vendors for different requirements, doesn't matter. But when you invest in a PAM solution, you should look at factoring the integration capabilities or seamless extensibility and interoperability of PAM with your existing IT management stack. The last point is access policies. Zilker invested in PAM mainly to meet with NIS2 and DORA, recommended by ENISA. But when you look at PAM, and even if you cover all the privilege activities, as we discussed earlier, you've covered all the users, you've covered all the identities, and therefore you've covered all the privilege activities happening in your entire infrastructure. They all go through PAM. Still, there are other access control policies in place. So for example, according to ENISA, you cannot have more than 2 privilege elevations in a single day. So what that means is, not only should you invest in PAM, you also have to configure PAM in such a way that no individual user can request and gain more than 2 elevation. If there is a need for more than 2 elevation, you have to have proper documentation to support the real need for multiple elevations on a single day. And there are some requirements, like you have to lock the system immediately after, after 3 or more lockouts, you have to completely block access to your systems and applications for the users. I mean, most organizations have lockout policy where if there was 3 invalid attempts, the user account get locked, but that's only temporary, right? If they wait for 15 or 30 minutes, it's going to automatically get unlocked in most cases, at least. But and there are other requirements or policies. So for example, if a modification action is going to be performed or an overwrite action is going to be performed in any area of your enterprise IT, it must have a pre-approval. Not just for the privilege access, you have to have proper documentation about what is the modification and why should this modification be done by this user by gaining privilege activity, and that should be approved. Just approving the privilege access alone is not sufficient. And then when such write operations or overwrite operations are being performed, you need a pre and post confirmation from your administrators or approving authorities. What that means is, as an admin, you can't just approve the request and be done with it. You approve the request and the user uses an identity to gain privilege access and perform that actual modification. And then it's your responsibility to go back and confirm that the modification performed is indeed the exact one that was pre-approved. You can't just approve the privilege access alone and assume that the user did the right privilege activity. So that's the point. PAM solutions can typically record the sessions. Of course, you would be able to investigate and find out what this user performed during the privilege session. But the point is, it's your responsibility to actually monitor the recording and ensure that the activity performed is indeed the exact activities that was pre-approved. So considering these kinds of requirements in place, the question you should ask is, am I deploying PAM with the best practices approach, following all the guidelines that are required for your organization to be in place? So with these 5 points or 5 key factors, if you invest in a proper PAM platform and deploy it the right way, these are the benefits you are going to get. So your organization will be better resilient to cyber attacks and cyber threats. You will have a better operational efficiency. You will have a better employee experience because PAM platforms typically make life easier for the users to gain privilege access. So it's not like they are going to multiple places, putting in multiple requests and waiting. PAM solutions typically work in a very seamless and a portable way. And cost optimization. And because you are going to consolidate and unify and have one PAM platform that has all the modules, all the pieces, and all the puzzle requirements, you would not have to invest in multiple vendors, multiple solutions that operate in a siloed fashion. And then ease of audit. When it comes to regulatory audits, you can't afford to get the audit evidence from like 25 different areas of your IT. You have to have all of them consolidated in a single area. And that area will most likely be PAM and SIM because SIM gathers all of the data and PAM can correlate with your SIM solution, make your life easier when it comes to uh, mm, regulatory audits and compliance audits. So with that said, we will talk about Manage Engine's own PAM platform called PAM 360. So we've started building this solution 18 years ago when we were in need of a password enterprise vault for ourselves. And from there, our journey began. And in due course of these 18 years, we've built a comprehensive PAM platform. It covers everything from certificate lifecycle management to endpoint privilege management and every other module. So you could do just-in-time elevation, you could do self-service application elevation, you could do application control. It also has a UEBA module where the system is going to crunch the usage pattern of your users and recognize anomalies or suspicious activities. Um, it also extends beyond your on-prem infrastructure. It could do cloud infrastructure entitlement management. So if you are using Azure, for example, or AWS, this PAM platform could discover cloud identities and remediate some of the risks associated with those identities as well. And it has vendor and third-party access management, which is a big piece for organization because pretty much all organizations have some interaction or engagement with third-party vendors, consultants, contractors, and all of it. And secure business workflows. So this is where Manage Engine's own PAM solution is quite capable because instead of looking at privilege access, controlling it and recording it, you could fully automate it where you don't need any user manually performing some of these privilege activities. So we have a dedicated privilege task routine module where you can automate some of these activities. Let's say you have a data analyst who transfers data from point A to point B and they do it periodically. They do it every day, for example. You could leverage our PAM solution to automate the task so this data analyst can focus on doing better activity. Or let's say you have a domain administrator who deals with joiner, mover, leaver activity. So if somebody leaves the organization or moves to a different department, this administrator have to manually revoke access of that user, manually make changes to their information in Active Directory and all of it. But with our plan platform, you can fully automate it. When a user moves to a different department, PAM can be designed to automatically update the necessary information in Active Directory and do the entire administrative task rather than just be a gateway or a proxy to just give your domain admin access. It literally does the activity of your domain administrator and leaves them room to do better activities in their day-to-day responsibilities. And so with Manage Engine's own PAM platform, the average implementation time is anywhere between 2 to 8 weeks. So even if you are a really large organization, we'll be able to deploy the PAM solution in less than 2 months. And our solution doesn't require any additional overheads, like you don't have to have powerful hardware requirements. There are no prerequisites required. The solution is simple, lightweight, and portable. And because we built this solution over the course of 18 years, we've always retained the user friendliness, the simplicity, and the intuitive UI. So even non-IT members, like from healthcare or hospitals or any other sector where they don't predominantly have IT knowledge, even they would be able to use our privilege access management platform for their day-to-day usage to gain privilege access. So there is very minimal knowledge required for leveraging our PAM solution in the context of end users. So that being said, we're going to take a look at Management's own PAM 360 platform in action. So this is a test setup of Manage Engine's PAM 360 platform that I have. I have close to 50,000 credentials added into this system. So there are two major areas inside our PAM platform. First is the user management area. So this is where you onboard your users who might need privilege access in their day-to-day operations. So we have integrations with Active Directory, Entra ID, LDAP. We even support SAML based single sign-on. So you will be able to integrate with your own directory systems or IDPs. And you have role-based access control and policy-based access control capabilities. So you can provision your users with one of these roles, and you can see what kind of capabilities gets unlocked when you designate the users with one of these roles. And if these built-in roles aren't satisfactory, we also have custom roles capability, where you can literally cook your own role by enabling various tabs, buttons, and various sections in PAM, and basically design your own customized user role. And then you will be able to apply that role to a set of users so that you have fine-grained control over what these users can or cannot do inside our PAM platform. And the next major area we have is this resources tab. So this is where you will see all of your devices. So it could be Linux machines or Windows machines or network devices or even databases. So the solution can automatically discover all of these endpoints, and it can also discover the local accounts present inside these endpoints. So that is what makes the system powerful, because if there are any dormant accounts or backdoor accounts or named accounts that were created by folks who used to work for your organization a couple of years ago, for example, you will be able to discover such named accounts and delete them out of your systems. So we have the option to group your devices logically or manually. You can create a static group. You can perform various activities at the group level. So for example, you can rotate the secrets or check the integrity of the passwords or set up notifications where if somebody retrieves one of these passwords or if one of these passwords go out of sync for those devices and all of it. You could also delegate access to a set of devices to a set of users. So you can see there's an option called share with users and share with user groups. And these user groups are your own directory system integrated user groups. So you will be able to provision access with various permission levels, like you could give them view permission or change permission or even full access in case if they are also administrators. But the idea is that with our PAM platform, you would be able to cover end to end all kinds of endpoints you have. You will be able to discover them, control them, and you will be able to authenticate, authorize, and audit the activities. So we have a dedicated audit area where you can see all the activities that happens. We also have a dedicated recording section where you will be able to see and play back and find out what activity was performed by a user. So for example, I'm playing a recording from August 7th. So you can see that this user has logged in to the domain controller, and whatever activity they performed plays like a video. And so yeah, we can record remote sessions for RDP, SSH, VNC, or even SQL based connections, or even to web applications. So you could allow users to launch web applications and record what they are doing in those web applications and internal web portals. So beyond all of this, like I said, we have dedicated report section, and specifically for compliance, we have compliance reports, and you will be able to see various reports for like ISO, GDPR, NERC, NIS2, and all of it. Now these reports are quite comprehensive. So for example, if I generate an NIS2 report, it is going to give you the exact article and the exact checklist item of what you're supposed to be doing in your infrastructure and what you have done in the last 30 days, whether anybody had self-elevated in any of the target machines, if all the sessions are indeed terminated after the activity is performed. So for all of this, the report will not just give high level information, but it has embedded actual data. So that's the key point. So you can see the full data when it comes to NIS2 or any other audits that you are looking at. We also have custom reports and query reports. So for example, if you are undergoing ISO report or ISO audit, we have the report that will list the control sets of ISO, and inside each control set you will have a checklist set of items. PAM will generate a report to cover all of these items and embed the actual evidence, like how many people logged into what devices at what time and what activity they performed. All of that will be recorded as a unified report that you can seamlessly generate and submit it to your auditor. And we have a dedicated dashboard area where you will be able to track the real-time activities, like how many users are logged in, which devices they are connecting to, and what activities they performed on any particular day. So these are interactive dashboards, so you will be able to click and get the exact information that you are looking for. So yeah, this is just a quick overview of Manage Engine's own PAM 360 platform. But if you look at Manage Engine's IAM portfolio, we have three platforms today. PAM 360 is the one that we just saw. We have AD 360, which is our identity governance and administration platform. We also launched Identity 360, I think earlier this year. Now this is going to be our unified IAM solution. And by that what I mean is we are working on providing a unified IAM solution, a like of which is not available in the market as of today. In other words, there's no vendor who has a unified IAM solution. I'm sure we have a lot of vendors offering various areas of IAM. PAM is one particular area, right? Then you have MFA and SSO, you have secrets management, you have policy-based access control, you have authentication, authorization, you have IGA. So IAM is a huge area, and in that you have so many subsets, and inside those subsets you have so many use cases. It's practically very difficult for any single vendor to offer something like Identity 360, but that is our vision. The platform is already available, and we are already working on integrating PAM 360, Active Directory 360, and seamlessly have them available as a part of our Identity 360 offering. So what you're looking at right now is all the pieces of IAM that we already have, but well, we used to have it as 12-point products. We have converged those 12-point products to act as three platforms now, and our vision is to basically unify them and offer it as one single platform so that all things IAM can be handled and managed and performed from a single solution and a platform. So that is our roadmap. We are already uh, uh, in a good start. So we've already have these three platforms independently operating. So now it's just a matter of embedding these through platforms into building a super platform, and also um, beyond IAM, in Manage Engine, we have six other platforms, everything from unified service management, full stack observability, endpoint management and security, SIM, and even advanced analytics. So we have these platforms with point products. If you're a small or a medium business, you will have the way to pick specific solutions that addresses specific needs. What if you are a medium to large sized organization with a bit more of a matured enterprise routines? Then you could look at our platforms to see if it meets your requirements, or if you have any challenges that you would like to tackle. You can always reach out to us, and we will be more than happy to help you out. We also have a 30 days trial version of our PAM platform and the other platforms in our website, so do check it out. If you are interested in a more personalized demo of our PAM solution, feel free to reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to schedule a detailed demonstration for you and your team. And yeah, that's pretty much what I had in my mind. Thank you so much for patiently listening to me.